Okay, this is the next paper that we are looking at. This one's about electric cars, and this to me is in an earlier draft phase relative to the one we looked at last time. So it's got a bit more to work on, and so if you are also in the draft phase, that's great because you can see kind of what that would look like. So right off the bat, let's just look at the formatting stuff. We are missing a last name and page number in the top right-hand corner, so we're going to go over to Insert. We are going to go to Page Number, and we're going to make sure it is in the top of the page in the header and on the right side. And we do want to show the number on the first page because we're in MLA format, not in APA. So we'll put that there. We'll double click up here and we need to go back to our home tab, align this to the right and type in our last name right there. Okay. So we've got our last name and our page number in the top right. We'll change this to that and this to the actual due date, which will go up on the prompt soon. We also have this extra space here. You're going to see a lot of people doing that. I don't know why. Don't put the space. Title is centered. That's great. And then let's go ahead and scroll through. See what we've got. Some of these paragraphs seem a little bit long. That one definitely does. But overall, I think this looks generally well formatted. We get to the end and there's no works cited page, so that's a problem. We do need a works cited page. So we should insert a page break. Right, and we'll put our works cited page there as we edit this. And let's go ahead and look at this first paragraph. Now, this first paragraph does a few things well and a few things poorly. But what we're going to do is we're going to break it into two paragraphs because it's too long, right? This opening paragraph here is, how many words is my selection? View word count. Where is it? Usually just shows, 296. It was just going slow. 296 words. So you can have an opening paragraph that's 296 words. That's not like against the rules or anything. For this particular one, I do think it is a little bit too long. So let me take a drink and we'll go ahead and get started on this paragraph. Imagine the situation. You wake up in the morning and you realize that you were late for work. So you must throw yourself together and run to your car. As you start your car, you see your gas light come on. You remember that you told yourself last night that you would get gas in the morning. This means you have to stop by the gas station because you are at risk of completely running out of gas. This makes you late to work and you miss your morning meeting because of it. Your whole day is thrown off because of this. For many people, this situation has either happened or will happen. For me, on the other hand, I will never have to worry about this. That is because I have an electric car that is fully charged every morning when I wake up. While there are many advantages and disadvantages of driving electric cars, I think the good overrules the bad. The biggest benefit behind electric cars is that they are better for the environment. This is due to the CO2 emissions on electric cars versus the average car. According to the article, Electric Cars Are They Solution to Reduce CO2 Emission? Electric cars reduce CO2 emissions. Although this should be a convincing factor for everyone, electric cars can be an inconvenience at times. In today's world, electric vehicles are something more people are looking into. By gaining more information on cost, effectiveness, speed, and overall ability of electric cars, you will see the benefits behind them. I own an electric car and I reap the benefits of it daily. Electric cars are better for the environment, easier to use, and just as effective as conventional cars while being better for the environment. Okay, so first we need to break this into two pieces, and we've really got two things going on here. One is kind of information about electric cars and them being better for the environment, and the other is this opening salvo of what it's like, this situation to try and go off to work with the electric car. So that's the natural spot to break it, is between those two sections. And I think the best place to do that is probably right here, where the story ends and we start talking about sort of many people, right? So let's go ahead and do that there. Now let's look just at this section now, which becomes our opening paragraph. First of all, this is a much more inviting look, right? It's shorter. We can read this first paragraph, chunk this information together, and that's an easier intro into the paper, right? But let's go through and sort of shrink this down, right? Let's cut out the excess in as much as we can. So first, we're just going to do this kind of logically. If you're imagining something, it's probably a situation. The word situation doesn't actually do anything for us here. And so we can just say, imagine this, and we'll put a colon there, right? Because we're going to detail the situation after that. And so saying that it's a situation doesn't do anything for us really. So we can cut a word there. You wake up in the morning, and we can cut this too. I know some people work third shift, right? Or even second shift, right? Not everybody wakes up in the morning. I get that. But generally speaking, for a general audience, which is what this is for, the morning is when you wake up, right? So you wake up, we can assume morning, and then we can get rid of this too, right? Because we've got a compound verb. You wake up and realize that you're late for work. Great, okay? That's already a good bit shorter. So you must throw yourself together and run to the car. This actually can't go here. Now, this sentence is technically correct. This is a grammatically correct sentence. What doesn't work with this is the context. It's a tense issue. So we are imagining something, and we're imagining all these things that we have to do, right? You wake up, you are late, you start your car, you see, right? All of these things are in the present tense. When we say you must throw yourself together and run to your car, what we're saying is that's like a need, and that's put out into the future. I'm not actually sure what the technical name for that tense is, because it's not, is it future tense? You must throw, I don't, it's some kind of imperative future thing going on here. I don't know. But if you just think rationally about it, you were saying you wake up, you are late, and you throw, right? So we need to get rid of that. So you throw yourself together and run to your car. As you start your car, you see your gas light come on. You remember that you told yourself, now look here, this is the same kind of logical thing, but this is done correctly this time. Okay, you remember, and so memory is all about the past, right? We can't remember the future. There's probably a sci-fi movie about it, but or you're Merlin, right? So we remember the past, and because we're referring to the past, we have our past tense verbs here, right? You told and you would get, right? Perfect. Okay, this mean? No, we need this means. You have to stop by the gas station because you are at risk of completely running out of gas. Okay. This right here is already implied, right? You have to stop by the gas station. You're not stopping for taquitos or a Red Bull because your gas light is on, right? We know the gas light is on. We know that you said you would stop to get gas, and now, here you are, right? So we don't need that. We can get rid of it. It's redundant information. This means you have to stop by the gas station. This makes you late to work, and you miss your morning meeting because of it. Because of it is the same thing here. We've already implied this. We know that you're late and you're missing your morning meeting because you had to stop to get gas, right? And so we can get rid of that. Your whole day is thrown off because of this. Again, it's not like some mystery thing we haven't mentioned. We know your whole day is thrown off because you're late to your meeting. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this through here before I check to see my phone if everybody is okay here. Yep, okay. Good. Imagine this. You wake up and realize that you're late for work. We can actually get rid of this too. Sorry. So demonstrative pronouns, they do an interesting thing. Basically, they take a sentence, you are late for work, right? And they make it function like a singular part of speech, right? That you are late for work. And we can just replace this whole thing with something, a single word, right? And so that you are late for work, even though it's a sentence, or it could be a sentence, it's within this relative clause right here because of this word that. Interestingly, though, we can also just delete it because that is assumed when we have just the sentence there at the end. I'm gesticulating with my hand. I realize that you can't see that. So imagine this. You wake up and realize you're late for work. Also, sorry, I swear we are going to read the whole thing. We can go ahead and use a contraction here. And the reason I want to use a contraction is, one, because we're telling a story and it just sounds a bit more natural. But two, the kind of writing where you avoid contractions and you avoid personal pronouns is when you're doing like scientific writing where you are reporting on a study, like an intense double-blind study that you've done, right? So you're reporting on this intense study and you're trying to remove yourself as much as possible to show the objectivity of the study. So like when it goes to the review, like to get reviewed by, for peer review, when it goes to peer review, your name won't even be on it, right? It'll be done blindly. So we have to like make it as objective and unpersonable as possible. This is not that, right? Before I deleted it, this has a name on it. This is not a research paper that is about, presenting research that's original research. This is an argumentative paper that's presenting research that's already been collected. We already know that the author is an interested party, right? So contractions just sound a bit more natural, we can use them. All right, imagine this. You wake up and realize that you're late for work. So you throw yourself together and run to your car. As you start your car, you see your gas light come on. You remember that you told yourself last night that you would get gas in the morning. This means you have to stop by the gas station. This makes you late to work and you miss your morning meeting. Your whole day is thrown off. All right, now that we've pared this down a little bit, this feels awkward because of the sentences beginning with the same thing. Basically, this means, this makes. This means you have to stop by the gas station. This makes you late to work. So let's see if we can get rid of that sort of awkwardness there. This means you have to stop by the gas station, making you late to work. And in fact, we can just do this, making you miss your morning meeting, okay? Because we understand that stopping by the gas station, again, we're implying by context here that this is, you're already late. We know you're late, right? We know you've got to stop to get gas, right? And that's gonna make you later. And so you have to stop at the gas station, making you miss your morning meeting. Your whole day is thrown off, right? That's much shorter than what we had originally, right? Remember, originally we were at 280 words, something, 280 odd words for our introduction. But we're down now to 71, but this stuff is still here, right? And this is where we have a couple of issues. Excuse me. Oftentimes I will tell people who are trying to improve their papers that the best thing they can do is delete their first paragraph, because usually what happens when people sit down to write their first paragraph of a paper, they start typing it all out and they've got all their ideas for what they want to say for their whole paper, and they think that that kind of needs to go in the introduction, so they're trying to say everything at once, and it comes out just kind of this big jumbled mess, right? And that's definitely what happened here. We did have a very intentional story to get us engaged. That worked well, but this is the kind of jumbled mess that usually I would encourage people to cut. So let's look at some of the issues here. For many people, this situation has either happened or will happen. For me, on the other hand, I will never have to worry about this. That is because I have an electric car that is fully charged every morning when I wake up. While there are many advantages and disadvantages of driving electric cars, I think the good overrules the bad. The biggest benefit behind electric cars is that they are better for the environment. This is due to the CO2 emissions on electric cars versus the average car. According to the article, okay, first big issue here. We've got some stuff we can delete above this, but this is a big issue. Because it's awkward here to have according to the article and then the article's title. There's also a typo here, right? Electric cars, are they solution? We're missing either the, right? Are they the solution? I assume it's what they mean, because it ends with a question mark, and it should be CO2 emissions, not emission. And so we can just look at this right here and copy it. And then let me hop out of my full screen view here, go over to window and paste it in. When we search for this, we do see that this comes from, we're on ResearchGate, right? So this is something that we could find, but we look at our authors, and by the way, I have to do it this way because there's no works cited page, right? So I can't go down and check the source, and it just so happens that I was able to find it by Googling it there, right? But otherwise I'd have a tougher time. So I can see that even this version has the incorrect language here. Are they solution to CO2 emission, right? And if I read the full text, I can see here, are they solution to reduce CO2 emission, right? The same issue there. So this is the University of Belgrade, the Faculty of Transport and Traffic Engineering in Serbia. I have no idea if they are credible. I don't know anything about this university. I have questions just because of the typos, but it could be that this wasn't originally written in English, which would make, it could have just been converted when they were publishing it onto ResearchGate. They might have just switched it over to English, and they may not have hired an actual translator, right? And so if we look at, let's look at this. Reducing carbon dioxide CO2 emission is one of the major environmental challenges for transportation. One way to solve this problem is to replace old cars that use fossil fuels, petrol, diesel, with new electric cars. In this paper, the existing model for calculating well-to-wheel CO2 emission during the life cycle of the car, fossil fuel car, and electric car is upgraded. So I see words like this, right? Upgraded, calculating well-to-wheel CO2 emission. That makes sense. Oil well to, the actual car CO2 emission during the life cycle of the car is upgraded. This is an odd choice of a word. I think if we were writing this as native speakers with this idea, we would say is improved, or or the existing model for calculating it is improved. I don't know. There's some confusing language stuff going on, and it could be because I don't have expertise in this specific area, which I obviously don't. But I find this source not to be the best because there's going to be, this is a popular topic, right? This is something about which we can probably find a lot of information in English. I would not have chosen this source. That said, because we do have the authors here, if we're going to use this source, we need to make sure that we're citing it correctly. Okay, so we're going to work on that now. If I can get this to hop into the right part of the screen. There we go. Get this to hop in the right part of the screen. There we don't go. That is incorrect. Come on now. Snap to corner. It just doesn't know what I want. There we go. And so we don't want to put the title in here like this, right? What we want to do is we want to go to our references tab, and we're in MLA, right? It's good. Okay, and we can click on our citations, and then we can click our little plus sign here, and we've got all the information we need, right? So we're going to edit because we've got a bunch of different authors, and we're going to do it in the order they appear in the paper, right? And so author number 1, I cannot spell this, so we're just going to copy that. Oops, nope. Where is my, I did this recently. Is that right? No, it's not right. Dadgummit Grant. Where did I know I did this at some point. I'll just do it over here. Okay. I haven't assigned a command key to my actual keyboard, so I'm using on the laptop keyboard. Very awkward. Okay. Right, that way I get the special letters in there. Okay, so I can add that one. Oops. And then I need to add the next one. And I'm not going to do this like all the way because I'm not actually writing this paper. But if you were, then you would, right? You would do everybody. Okay, and then we'd add them and then, but we're not going to do all that because we're not actually writing the paper, right? Okay, so then we'll copy their title and paste it in. And the journal name, Journal Thermal Science. Okay. Oops. So I just changed my keyboard layout, so I'm a little shaky on it. The year, I'm going to show all the bibliographic fields. Year, it was published in 2020. And it was in January. And the volume is right here. Volume and number are like that. So 24 and issue 5. And the pages 2,879 to 2,889. Okay, so now we've got a source. Hooray. Right? And we'll make this big again. And just went ahead and put that in. No, do what I say. All right. So here it is. According to, and we wouldn't want to say, we would want to put their names in here. Is how we would end up doing that. So let's change this sentence around just a little bit. Whoops. Come back. Let's change this sentence around just a little bit to make it work. Literature is producing fewer CO2 emissions. Okay. Let me say this. Right, because obviously it's worse than a bike. And then we'll put our source in here. Because you'll note this says the same thing as this, right? It helps reduce CO2 emissions. It helps reduce CO2 emissions. It says the same thing. So we'll come here, and then we'll just double click on that. And then what we would like to do is edit the citation and include a page number. Generally, and so I think 28, whatever, I don't know what it was, right? And include our page number, right? We want to include our page number if we can, where that information comes from. Also, if we said like according to Petrovic and Pesek, then we could suppress the author, year, and title, and just put the page number in, and that's how we would do that if we had mentioned the author already in the sentence. But in this case, we didn't, just because of how we set it up. So we want the author's last name in there. Now, what we can do, since we've put this source in, is we'll come down to our page we added earlier, and we will go to Works Cited, and we'll enter that Works Cited page, And then we'll go here and go back home because I don't know why they format it like this. We want it formatted like that and centered. Okay, and now we've got our Works Cited page in. And every time we add something, it will automatically format it for us, which is nice, right? This will keep updating as we go. Okay, let's go back up here. Still in this second, our second paragraph. So we fixed the although this should be a convincing fact for everyone, electric cars can be an inconvenience at times. Now, you'll note here, obviously what this is trying to foreshadow is that there's going to be, hold on one second. I need to text my wife where to find her computer charger. Or I need to take her computer charger. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Wait. Okay, sorry, crisis averted and coffee refilled. So let's look here. Where were we? Right, so what this is trying to foreshadow is we're going to have a paragraph later in this paper that talks about the inconvenience of electric cars, whatever that is, right? It's trying to foreshadow that. But it feels awkward to have this statement first paired with this, but then to have no reasons afterwards, right? We go from basically the environmental concern should be a convincing factor for everyone, but they're inconvenient. But more and more people are looking into them. Those three things don't really seem to go together. And I think what they probably correspond to is stuff that appears later in the paper. But when you push them all together like this without some kind of contextualizing to see how we're transitioning between them, it feels really awkward. And so what we can actually do is get rid of this and not lose anything. And actually, we can lose this one too, because there's no good source for this, right? I think it's true probably, but we don't, I don't know what the source is on this. I don't know where this information is coming from. If you're talking about the overall market share of electric vehicles, you're going to need to cite that. If you're talking about how more people buying them leads to greater infrastructure for them in terms of charging stations, again, you probably need to show like the rate of increase of charging stations. And there are sources for all of that. But this feels like a throwaway sentence right here because the author was sensing like, these ideas aren't really transferring together all that well. And again, if we get rid of it, it doesn't hurt us. Okay, by gaining more information on cost, effectiveness, speed, and overall ability of electric cars, you will see the benefits behind them. Okay. So there are a couple of factors that are really good here. Looking at cost, that is an important one, right? Speed, an important one. I have questions about effectiveness and overall ability. These two words, I don't know what they're referring to, right? The semantic value, the meaning of effectiveness in this sentence isn't clear to me because a car is going to get you from A to B, right? A Pinto is as effective at getting you where you want to go as, a Ferrari, right? So I don't know what effectiveness means. Are we talking about reliability? Are we talking about convenience for charging, right? Then convenience or reliability needs to be what we are talking about. And the same thing here with overall ability. Overall ability feels like another way of saying effectiveness. If we're talking about options or the technology in them, then we need to be a little bit more specific about that because these feel the same to me and they also feel to be kind of so vague that I don't really know, ability to do what. Cars are go-mobiles, right? They take you places. So I don't know what either of those things means. We also have this right here, which is, we'll go back to those in just a second because we have something to work with this next sentence. This feels like it belongs up here, doesn't it? When we're talking about owning an electric car, right? This person owns an electric car. We've already said this. It doesn't really fit here, right? We might say like, you could argue that it fits there, but I don't think it fits here so much as it would up here. And again, if we get rid of it, it's not a problem, but it does reveal a problem to us, which is we have two sentences now in a row without the I own an electric car and reap the benefits daily that are listing things that are the benefits of an electric car, right? And so we need to combine these sentences together. So by gaining more information on cost, effectiveness, speed, and overall ability, you'll see the benefits. Electric cars are better for the environment, easier to use, and here again, just as effective as conventional cars while being better for the environment. So we see an issue here, and the spacing helps, right? Better for the environment, better for the environment. We don't want to put the list of things twice, so let's get rid of that. And then let's get rid of any mention of effectiveness, because it doesn't really mean anything in this context. Overall ability and effectiveness. Cost, speed. So let's just reduce down to our benefits: cost, speed, environment, ease. Okay, and so let's make a new sentence that uses these things. Cheaper, faster, easier to use, and better for the environment. Okay, that gets us everything we need from those sentences. Okay, now let's go back up to the above the citation, because we have an issue with putting this information here too. So for many people, the situation has happened or will happen. For me, on the other hand, I will never have to worry about this because I have an electric car, I think is what we should probably say. This right here, while there are advantages and disadvantages, that should be what the paper is about, right? Is the advantages and that it's overruling the bad. Again, we don't want to say like, hey, I'm going to tell you about all this stuff, but not right now, right? You have to wait on it. And I think there's some confusion sometimes that that's what an introduction is it's just foreshadowing things. And it can help if you are laying out a specific structure like we do with this, right? So we can expect to see arguments about these individual things. But just to say very vaguely that there's advantages and disadvantages doesn't tell us very much. The biggest benefit behind electric cars is that they're better for the environment. This is due to electric car. There we go. The biggest benefit behind electric cars is that they're better for the environment because they produce fewer CO2 emissions than the average car. Petric 2800. They're cheaper, faster, easier to use, and better for the environment. Now that seems awkward, right? Okay. We've really shrunk this down enough to where we need to bring it back up into this paragraph, right? Because now we're still at a very manageable 143 words from where we were at. We've cut it in half basically. I'm just gonna continue to shorten this a bit. Okay, now this feels out of place right here, right? Because this seems like, especially if we're using a citation here, this seems like it should belong in a paragraph where we're talking about how these cars are better for the environment, right? To include a citation here as though we've made some kind of overarching argument about the environment feels kind of awkward and out of place, right? And so this is not a bad sentence, it's not a bad idea, and I'm coming around on the source. I don't think it's a bad source, but it doesn't belong in the section in our introduction. It belongs in the section that's about why this is better for the environment, right? Especially because we can mention that they're better for the environment in the next paragraph. Okay, so now what are we down to? We're down to 110 words from our original 280 plus. Let's read this. Imagine this. You wake up and realize you're late for work. So you throw yourself together. We don't need this either. You throw yourself together and run to your car. As you start your car, you see your gas light come on. You remember that you told yourself last night that you would get gas in the morning. This means you have to stop by the gas station, making you miss your morning meeting. Your whole day is thrown off. For many people, this situation has either happened or will happen. But I will never have to worry about this because I have an electric car. Electric cars are cheaper, faster, easier to use, and better for the environment. Okay. All right. Okay, we've pared this down a lot. We're down to 107 words. We could do a little bit more paring down. I've done a version of this looking at it earlier where we got it down to, I think, 98. So there's a little bit more peeling away you could do. This is, as right now, this is pretty brief. It's pretty clear. It's got everything we need for an introduction. It's a much better introduction than what we had, right? So basically this process we went through needs to be done for the whole paper. You go through, you want to find everything, make sure each paragraph is about a specific thing, right? That we're not blending our different topics together, which is another issue that this paper has. It keeps bringing up basically environmental stuff every time in every paragraph, right? And we don't want to do that in every paragraph. We want to have all our environmental stuff together in a few paragraphs where that's our focus, and then talk about the other benefits in other areas, right? And it might even be helpful to use some kind of like bolded headings, like you could do right, and then right there, and that way you get kind of like it's easier to sort of visualize that. If you can do this basically if you're having trouble organizing your paper, if you're having trouble getting everything sort of collected and different ideas keep bleeding into different spots, you can use bolded headings like this. That's totally fine. It also sort of covers over an inability to transition between two topics, right? If you're like, I don't know how to transition between these two things, they're very different, but they're not really connected, but I'm just sort of done with that one, then a bolded heading like that can help. But then you have to do more than one, right? You can't just have one random bolded heading in your paper to get rid of a single bad transition. Anyway, okay. Hopefully that helps look at how to sort of start looking at cutting away excess words and paring a paper down. And yeah, we'll do another one of these soon.